Even though it was ubiquitous, or let's say blue-biquitous, in the early days of YouTube streaming and podcasting, more recently the Blue Yeti has become the subject of criticism, memes, and general hate. So let's see if the Yeti is really that bad. And this video is definitely not sponsored. I actually am excited about it because I don't know how this video is going to end. I'm filming it in chronological order, so I don't know what the results are going to be. And we're definitely going to be voiding some warranties and doing things that Blue would tell you not to do. So, not a sponsored video. After this, I have a feeling if I try to get warranty service, they're gonna say, sorry, you blew it. So let's talk about some of the basics of the Blue Yeti. The Yeti was originally released in 2009, which in technology terms is a very, very long time ago. It's a multi-directional plug-and-play USB microphone with several different pickup patterns, so that way it's supposed to be very versatile and deliver really good sound quality. There are different versions of the Yeti, but the basic one usually sells for about $100, sometimes a little bit more. There are different colors. There's even an XLR version that I think sells for more, about $250. You get the microphone, you get the stand, you get a USB cable, and that's what you get. I don't know. There are things that make me appreciate the Yeti that are very qualitative, super biased, and super subjective that I'll be talking about throughout this video, and I recognize that. But when I first got my Yeti, this is from 2017, this is what enabled me to start streaming on my channel and to start doing voiceovers in some of my videos. I didn't have the Rodecaster or XLR microphones or anything like that. So the Blue Yeti really opened up a lot of new creative options and opportunities for me when I got it. I also really liked it because I've always been a fan of, like, especially old school late night talk shows, and there's always a host and a desk and a microphone at the end of the desk, and I thought it was neat that during my streams I could have kind of an old school looking microphone on the desk with me, and I don't know, I like that. But the goal today is to really look at the Yeti from as objective a point of view as possible. Let's hear how it sounds, dive into some of the reasons why people dislike it, and let's see if those are justified. So I have found really two main reasons that people dislike the Yeti, and the first reason, as concisely and diplomatically as possible, can be boiled down to it sucks. But to me, that's also a very subjective, qualitative, anecdotal reason. So a while ago, I interviewed Alan from SoundSpeeds for my video about the Sennheiser MKH50, and Alan is a professional boom operator for movies and TV shows. Like, I pretty much guarantee you've seen and heard some of his work, kind of no matter who you are. He's been around that long, and he's that good at what he does. When we talked about the Sennheiser, I also asked him about the Blue Yeti because I wanted a professional's opinion on the Yeti. Is the Blue Yeti really that bad?
Yes. I'm going to show you something real quick here. That's the capsule of the Yeti. Okay? That right there, if you look at it, it's got 3 different capsules, and they're facing in random different directions. That's how it kind of creates an omnidirectional type pattern.
Right.
The actual insides of the Yeti are basically very cheap garbage modules. Well, I can't speak to old school Yetis versus new school Yetis, but what I can tell you is when content creation originally started, it was using webcam audio. It was using camera microphones on your phone. But when people were doing gaming on YouTube, or they were doing any kind of content creation at their computer, and they wanted to get a better quality microphone, the Yeti provided a very logical step to get off of your webcam to make it sound better. And it did do very well for that purpose. It's 2022 as of the time of this video. It's not when the Yeti first came out anymore. There are so many more options. And the reason why personally I don't like the Yeti is because it's a bunch of very inexpensive and cheap, basically modules. The thing about it is, though, it's wedged itself in because of what it was able to do for people who wanted to take their audio to the next level. Many people like it. That's fine if that's really what you like, but there's many better options available in 2022. And to me, the hype is just too much, and it just irritates me.
So I think even despite his personal feelings towards the Yeti, Alan was able to more eloquently explain why he doesn't think it's a great microphone, and it really just has to do with the quality. You're getting cheap internals, it's not delivering the best sound quality, and a bunch of people are buying it when maybe there are better options, because this might have been the best option in 2009 or a decade ago. But today there are so many other options out there for USB microphones at the same price or even at a lower price. Let's record with the Yeti. I'm not gonna do anything special with this audio or process it or anything. I'm just going to record directly into QuickTime, and then you'll be able to hear the Yeti. Are you ready? So up until now, you've been listening to the Sennheiser MKH50, and now this is the Blue Yeti and the Cardioid pickup pattern. And I personally think that a lot of times when we're talking about the Blue Yeti sucks, what we're really talking about is a person sucks at using the Blue Yeti. It's a pretty affordable mic, which makes it really accessible, but it does also have kind of a lot of options. And so you put that accessibility in the hands of people who aren't experienced with microphones, and you're going to get a lot of mistakes. The number of times, especially during the pandemic, that I've seen like professional journalists talking into the top of a Yeti is way more than I would like to count. There are a lot of different pickup patterns with the Yeti. There is not one ever that requires you to talk into the top of the Yeti. Never speak into the top of it. But it makes sense. If someone's not familiar with microphones and they're used to seeing handheld microphones that people speak into the end of, it wouldn't make sense to talk into the side of your microphone. So I totally understand that. Additionally, even when I got my Yeti, I thought that the back was the front and the front was the back, because the front is the part with the blue logo on it. But I thought they would want the blue logo facing outward, so naturally that made the other side the front. So the front is the side with the blue logo, which is not actually blue, it's silver, but it's the logo that says blue on it. That, the mute button, and the headphone volume switch facing you, that's the front of the microphone. The back of the microphone has the pickup pattern selector and the gain dial. And one thing that I've always been kind of grateful to the Yeti for is that it is the first microphone that taught me about pickup patterns. I didn't know anything about them, but I had to learn because of this dial back here. And the first thing I learned was switch it to the one that kind of looks like a bean, because that's the cardioid pickup pattern, and that's what you want if there's just one person in front of the microphone. And from there, I learned about the other different pickup patterns. We can test those right now. What you're also going to notice is that the Blue Yeti is very susceptible to handling noise. You can kind of hear how the cardioid pickup pattern works. This is me in front of the microphone, and as I turn the microphone, you're going to notice my voice decreasing behind the microphone, and then I go back in front of the microphone and it sounds normal again. Now, there are 3 different capsules in the top of the Blue Yeti, and that's what lets you use all these different pickup patterns. So one of them is the figure 8 pickup pattern. Where is it? There we go. And this basically picks up sound from in front of and behind the Yeti. So in theory, you could use that if you wanted to interview someone. You put the Yeti between you and one of you on either side. This is me in front of it. As I turn to the side, you're going to hear my voice kind of drop out a bit. And as I get behind the microphone, my voice comes back. So you could put this between 2 sound sources and then pick it up that way. Now, it does also have an omnidirectional setting. Basically, it's picking up 360 degrees. So if you had like a group of people around a table, you could put the Yeti in the middle, and then no matter where somebody is, they will be picked up on the microphone. I don't think that there's really many microphones in the world, no matter how high the quality, that are gonna sound good if they're trying to pick up sound from every direction from a bunch of different sources, much less a $100 USB microphone. So I don't know how really useful the omnidirectional setting is, but you can decide for yourself. And then the last setting is actually very interesting. This is a stereo left-right setting. So this now will put things that are on the left and things that are on the right. So as I move around the microphone, you should be able to hear on your speakers my voice changing sides. And originally, Blue liked to promote the Yeti as being not just for streaming, but also for music recording. And so if you have multiple instruments being played or something like a choir that you're recording, it would give you that full stereo mix instead of just that monolithic mono wall of sound. So the stereo setting, probably not something that most people are going to use very often, but actually kind of a cool feature. Now, I think it's very important that we talk about the stand that the Yeti comes with, because this is sort of half of the microphone. You can take the microphone out of the stand. You can undo these things here, but I can't stand to do that because it's actually really kind of a clunky process, and it's really frustrating to put the microphone back in the stand. So to me, that's kind of a one-time thing. If you know you want to use it like this, or if you want to mount it on a boom arm or another mic stand, you kind of make that decision and then live with it because it's so frustrating to use. If you use the Yeti out of its original stand and connect it to another stand, it does have a 5/8 inch mount on the bottom, so it can connect to any standard microphone stand. I personally, this is very probably shallow of me, think that it looks weird. It's sort of this awkward pill shape with the 2 holes on the side for the stand, and it just looks kind of goofy to me. So I always feel like if you are planning to use the microphone on a different stand or a different boom arm, it probably is worth looking into a different USB mic. However, the stand that it comes with, I think, is actually pretty decent. It's good quality as long as you're not touching it and getting that handling noise, especially for people who aren't super familiar with microphones. If you're sitting at a desk or a table and you put the mic in front of you, it's going to position it a good distance and at a good direction from your mouth. Now, because we live in the future, there are a lot of other USB options now. This is the Rode NT USB Mini. It is another $100, sometimes even less, USB microphone. It has basically all the same features of the Blue Yeti, except for the multiple pickup patterns. It's a very streamlined microphone, and I do think it feels a bit more premium manufactured. It's just a really nice feeling microphone. But what's really cool about it is the stand is outstanding because it's magnetic, which means if you want to mount this to something else, you can just do that and then connect it to your boom arm or a mic stand. And if you want to use the stand that it comes with, you can do that too. In fact, let's switch over to the NT USB Mini right now. So this is the sound quality of the Rode NT USB Mini, and personally I think this is a really great sounding microphone, especially if you can position it close to your mouth. I've talked about this in a few other videos. My one gripe with the NT USB Mini is that it's sometimes too mini, because when you put it down just on a table in front of you, it's so far away from you that you start picking up more of the room tone and less of your voice, and you don't get the best audio quality. And so just like people who aren't familiar with microphones make mistakes with the Yeti, I think a microphone like this, a lot of people might make the mistake of having it too far away from them and then not getting the best sound quality. But if you bring it close to you, it sounds pretty darn excellent. So we might as well actually do a couple other comparisons while we're talking about that, just so you can kind of hear some of the more modern options. So that was the NT USB Mini. Now this is the Rode Videomic Go 2. It's a weird contraption that I've put together to try to get sound from two directions, but I'm just using one microphone right now. I know that the Deity D4 Duo exists to accomplish this same thing, but what's the fun in not trying to figure it out yourself? So anyway, this is also a $100 microphone. It's really made to record audio from a camera, so it has a 3.5mm input, but it can also be used as a USB microphone, just like the Blue Yeti. So it's really versatile. Now, a little bit ago, I mentioned that there is an XLR/USB version of the Blue Yeti that costs about $250. This is the Shure MV7, another USB/XLR microphone that also retails for about $250. And of course, if you just search up $50 to $100 or $50 to $200 USB microphones, you won't believe the number of options that pop up. So we definitely live in a world where there are a lot more options than in 2009, 2010, when the Blue Yeti was kind of the only option out there. But let's take this a little bit further and talk about the other big reason I've heard people say that they don't like the Blue Yeti, and that has less to do with the microphone sucks and more to do with the microphone sucks now. In 2018, Blue was purchased by Logitech. And there's sort of this conversation going that I've read online and seen in other videos where people are saying that after Logitech purchased Blue, they kind of kept the design of the Yeti the same, but they changed the internals of the Yeti, which wouldn't be the first time to hear of a bigger company buying a smaller company, reducing the quality, but still sort of reaping the benefits of the brand recognition that had already been established. However, Logitech is pretty decent from what I know. I have the Logitech keyboard right here, which is like my favorite keyboard I've ever had. My wife has the Logitech mouse, which she loves. I'm not a huge fan of webcams, but if you need a USB webcam, Logitech makes kind of some of the most solid and best ones out there. Now, what I don't have is a Blue Yeti from 2009 or 2010, but I have this Yeti here, which is from 2017. So this is a pre-Logitech Blue Yeti. Now, unfortunately, I can't find any information online as to whether or not the manufacturing has changed or not. So really the only option is for me to do my own research and compare this to a new Yeti, which basically means I just have to go buy a new Blue Yeti and then take it apart and take mine apart and try not to break anything and see if they're different. So fortunately, my local Best Buy not only has the Yeti in stock, but they have a $30 off sale that ends today, the day I'm making this video. This is not like a Best Buy commercial or anything. So I'm just gonna order that and then go pick up that Yeti. Alrighty, so here is the Blue Yeti, the new Blue Yeti. I got the Blue Yeti because obvious reasons, but also it'll be easier for me to tell them apart and make sure I don't mix things up when we're testing them out. A couple things to note though, before I even open this one up. First, that this is definitely a newer one. It has a copyright date of 2021 on the bottom of the package. And I also noticed on some of the product imagery, you have the microphone here and you have an out of focus game on a display back here, and the game is Among Us. So that is a very 2021 situation. Looking at the packaging, trying to see how is Blue and Logitech positioning the Yeti in 2022, and basically it says it's for creators. It says Blue microphones continues to dazzle us from PC Gamer. There's actually not a lot of hyperbolic claims on the packaging for the microphone. It doesn't even really claim to be like the best sounding microphone or anything. It basically says that it's a USB microphone for games and online stuff. So let's open it up and see what you get with a Blue Yeti today. You get a USB cable. This is actually something I was curious about. So the Yeti, since its inception, has used a mini USB cable, and I figured, maybe they've updated that to USB-C. It's still mini USB type A. pretty much exactly how it's been the whole time. There's our microphone. It's the exact same controls, the exact same functionality. Physically, other than the color, there's really nothing different. They're the exact same size, the exact same weights, materials, the knobs and buttons feel the same. Externally, there's no difference between the new one and the old one. But let's see if that's the same internally. And I do want to say, normally I really dislike the thing of like buy a brand new thing and then take it apart. It just feels wrong to me. So I'm going to be as careful as I can to not break either of these. First thing, I guess, is probably to do a sound test, a sound comparison between these two microphones. All right, so this is the original Blue Yeti, or at least I should say the pre-Logitech Blue Yeti from 2017. I am in the Cardioid pickup pattern. The gain dial is set to 9 o'clock, and I am about just over 1 fist's distance, or fistance, away from the microphone, and this is what that sounds like.
So this is what the new Yeti sounds like. I wish I were joking. I think it's broken.
I need to turn this down. I don't know what the heck is going on. I guess if I turn it to the stereo setting, I can kind of make it work in the stereo setting a little bit. Oh, nope. Okay. We're just going to go back to the Sennheiser. Basically, it's just outputting like a full overmodulated signal all the time. You hear this? Yeah, this is the dubstep edition. I feel less bad about taking it apart now. We'll see if there's anything different on the inside. This is weird. And maybe we'll find something wrong and I can fix it and then we can test it. So let's get into the disassembly of the Yeti. Basically, I need to remove some stuff from the bottom here. And there is a lot more writing on the bottom of this one than there is on the bottom of that one. The original Yeti has no sticker. You just see 2 screws and there's a little thing you need to remove here to get to the 3rd screw. This one, they do not want you screwing with it. Once I got it peeled a little bit, it's not hard to remove that sticker. And then in the 5/8 inch mount, there is this little like cover to hide or protect the screws, so we need to remove that as well. All right. They come out super easily. They're not specialized screws, they're just Phillips head screws. They're not glued in or anything. And then we actually need to take off the knobs. There we go. Okay, got one knob off, so this is the pattern selector. The knobs are just plastic, so I'm trying not to scratch them. There we go. The inside of the new Yeti. We do still have a few screws that we need to take out so we can see the capsules. So let's look at the boards first, before you get bored. I'm sorry, old friend. And here is the old Yeti. This is gonna be old on the right, new on the left. Let's see if there are any immediately there are some noticeable differences here. The top part, there's the dials, those are the same, but the boards are actually totally different. The new one, everything's on like this half board and you can kind of see all the parts are very condensed. The old one has a longer board and even says Yeti Analog Revision 8. This says Yeti Analog Revision 005. And on the other side, we kind of notice the same thing actually. The board is smaller. There's totally different components. These are 2 entirely different looking boards. I kind of didn't think that would be the case. If you want to get real technical, you can pause the frame right here. Also put some photos in the description you can download if you want to look at the boards more clearly yourself. Let's look at the capsules now. There's just a few more screws that I need to undo. And here are the capsules of the original Yeti. They don't really look amazing. They look kind of like cheap electric condenser capsules. That's kind of what I expected, and they're just on this plastic thing here, and they're positioned in a way that helps get all those different polar pickup patterns, including an XY pattern for stereo. Originally, I wouldn't have thought there'd be any difference at all, but now I kind of don't know what to expect because the boards are entirely different. Let's see, the new capsules look exactly the same. Here's the old, here's the new. They look pretty identical. So what that leads me to think is that there might be something to it when people say new Yetis don't sound as good as old Yetis. There is a lot different happening inside. So while the capsules are the same, the quality of the audio being captured by the capsules is the same. Maybe the way that it's being, I don't know if processed is the right word, but the way it's being handled is pretty different. That's actually, while I have them apart, let's take them apart more and see if there's a difference in between these two boards. What the hell? Oh, there's pins. Okay. So there's a little pin connector that connects these two boards. And then there's the metal chassis of the microphone. So this is the old one. I see the same pin connector here. So this is the back of the original, and this is the back of the new one. This is the back of the fronts. This is the original, this is the new one. Here's the front of the fronts, the original and the new one. Now what I'm noticing though is that the capsules on both of them, they just have these little snap connectors here. So that makes me kind of wonder if I could actually swap the capsules and see how they sound. Now looking at the new one, like, again, I'm not an expert. I don't see anything that explains why it would be sounding wrong. I don't see any like bad soldering points. What I'm gonna do now is reassemble the original to a point where I can plug it in, and then I'm going to swap out the capsules and see what the new capsule sounds like on the old one. Here's a little thing though. This might be a small detail, but I think it speaks to a bigger picture. On the original board, where the microphone capsules connect to the board, they're color coded. So the white one is white, and then you have the red and the blue, and the wires themselves, you have white, red, and blue. The new one, it goes in the same order, but it doesn't have that detail. And I know that's very small, but it's all of those small details that do add up to a better end result. I'm gonna connect this to the computer and see if it does anything. We've got our light on here. Oh, hey, it works. I hear it working. It doesn't sound like dubstep. It is working. I think that the level is okay. From the tests I have run, I don't think there's any sound quality difference between these capsules, the old and the new, which would mean that if there is a sound quality difference, it's to do with the boards. When we're talking about capsules, this is the Rode NT1. It's another condenser microphone. If I can get the light to catch it, you can see it's got this big, beautiful capsule up here, which is very, very different than what we're seeing here, which is kind of these cheap plastic capsules. The physical appearance, of course, doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the audio quality, but it does kind of say something to the overall quality. What I'm gonna do now is reassemble the original Yeti, get that all back together, and then we're gonna start experimenting with the new one to see if we can find the fault and fix it and get a real sound test out of it. We're done. We've got our original Yeti put back together. So that wasn't too bad. Now, let's see what is going on over here. We know these capsules work because I just used it on this Yeti. Okay, it's powered on. Oh, wait, it's fixed. Wait, is it? Nope, still. It still doesn't work. That's frustrating. I'm gonna go return this and exchange it and see if another one doesn't work. So they didn't have another one, so I had to return it and then go pick it up at a different Best Buy, which is not close. And the good news is the $30 off sale that I got it on ended yesterday, so I can't get it an even exchange through so it's kind of cost me $30 more. Yeti number 2, or I guess technically number 3 if this is number 1. It ended up costing an extra $30 for some reason, so I'm super committed to this project at this point. Fortunately though, I don't have to take this one apart. We're just gonna plug it in and see if it works. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna lose my mind. This Yeti's like, wait, I feel like bad things have happened in here to my kind. Let's plug in some headphones and see if any weird sounds are happening. Hello? Hey, it works! All right. This is the original pre-Logitech Blue Yeti on the Cardioid pickup pattern with the gain set to 9 o'clock. This is the pre-Logitech Yeti, reassembled by me. So hey, it works. That's good, right? And this is the brand new post-Logitech Yeti that I just took out of the box with the exact same settings on the Cardioid pickup pattern with the gain set to 9 o'clock. So it is the exact same settings as the other one. So now we can kind of tell if there are any sound differences. I'll go back and forth between them. So when it comes to is there a difference in sound quality between these two microphones, honestly, at least with this preliminary testing, and I've done a little bit of recording and listening while not recording here, I don't really think there is that much of a difference. It is so strange to me, though, that the internals are very, very different. So it's the exact same capsules, totally different boards, PCB boards on these, and the sound quality, though, seems to be pretty much the same. But again, this is the original Blue Yeti. You're hearing me on the original pre-Logitech one, so you can't actually buy this exact one anymore because they're manufactured differently now. Now, at this point, I'm back on the brand new Yeti, and one thing that I did want to point out, since this is working, is the Blue Voice app, which is a free download. I've tried it with other USB microphones, but it seems to only recognize Blue microphones, which makes sense, but it's a free download, and you can do some cool stuff with it. We can do high-pass filters. We can adjust the high pass filter. You can adjust your input gain. You can create samples. You can play samples. It's almost like the Rode Connect app, where if there's a stream or something, you can play samples directly from here and create samples. So you can kind of hear, like, I turn off the voice EQ. This is what it sounds like normally. Turn on the voice EQ. That's what it sounds like with EQ. We have stuff like, Broadcaster 1, if we want to do crisp and warm and make things sound crisp and warm like a summer day. If you've got a low voice, a loud low voice, you can turn this on. If you've got a soft high voice, you could do this. That's weird. I won't do that. We've got warm and vintage over here. We've got FM. We've got old timey AM radio. I can peddle my conspiracy theories. And of course, there are also effects, which you can have kind of fun with. You can do
like crazy voice, of course, me not being able to hear everything in real time.
Makes it a little bit difficult to do some of this stuff sometimes, but
sometimes I guess that's the fun of it. If you were running this through
your streaming software, then it would make a lot more sense for you to make sure you can monitor this. But this is actually a pretty full-featured little application. It's kind of fun. And helium chipmunk. So that's where we're gonna go. That's where we're gonna go right now before I stop this.
Something I just learned about the software that comes with the Blue Yeti is it still affects the sound of the microphone even if you close the application. So if you want to play around with your goofy effects and then close it and go back to normal, be sure you actually reset everything or turn off the effects option, because I just recorded the entire conclusion to this video in an alien chipmunk voice, and now I'm redoing it. So the biggest thing when it comes to a review like this is, would I recommend the product or not? And in terms of sound quality, I like to leave that entirely up to you. You can decide what sounds good, what doesn't sound good. I definitely don't not recommend the Yeti, which is probably not the endorsement they're going to put on the box. Like, I definitely don't not recommend it. Tom Buck. What I mean by that is I think Alan really was accurate with his assessment of the Yeti originally came out at this time where there was nothing else like it, and it helped people level up their audio in a really big way. More than a decade later, there's just so many other options out there, a lot of them for less money than the Yeti and higher quality and better sound quality. So it's definitely worth looking at those. As with anything, I think it's probably a good idea if you're looking for a good microphone to see everything that's available in your price range. There might be something out there that's absolutely perfect for your voice, your needs, your environment. If you do just want a very simple plug and play USB microphone that you can keep in one stand and it's positioned pretty well, and it has, some added effects and features and things, I think the Yeti is actually a really good choice. If you want to put it on a boom arm or a stand or something, I think you should look at other microphones. But what I can tell you is, personally, I always thought the Yeti sounded great. I never really had an issue with it. It wasn't until I started seeing stuff online that I realized it was sort of like this thing about the Yeti is bad. It might not be the absolute best sounding microphone I've ever heard or used, but it's also far, far, far from the worst. Now, speaking very anecdotally, for me, getting my Blue Yeti was a really big deal because it was some of the first money that I invested into my YouTube channel. I didn't have other microphones at the time other than one Videomic, and so it let me have good streaming audio and it let me have good voiceover audio. So this microphone actually unlocked potential for my channel that wasn't there before. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is the Blue Yeti. This guy right here, it's one of the most popular microphones you see on YouTube. People see them all the time. These microphones are so great because they're relatively inexpensive. You can use them for a number of things. I love them. Now, of course, the number of USB options was much more limited back then, and I would probably have that same fondness for any USB mic that I might have started out with that kind of unlocked those options for me. So it's not necessarily Yeti specific, but I was so excited when I got this microphone. I used the heck out of it. It never let me down, and it still works great to this day. So what more do you want for your $120 to $30? My wife Heather has a very similar story. She got her Yeti before I got mine. She got hers in 2016. It was sort of the same thing where she got it and it opened up these options of I can podcast, I can live stream, I can have better quality in my videos. She didn't even have a video mic before that. And it was this really exciting thing to get the Yeti.
I figured that today would be a perfect day to talk about podcasts. And also because I got my new microphone and I'd like to test it. Oh, this is so cool.
And I think my biggest concern when I hear people making fun of it and criticizing it isn't that those criticisms are invalid, but it's that they could be really discouraging for someone. Because a lot of times when we look up product reviews and we watch videos and get feedback, it's after we've already bought the product. We're almost looking for affirmation. Like, we've got the thing and now I want you to tell me how good it is and maybe teach some more things about it. And so if someone gets their Yeti and they're like, this is cool, and they're liking the sound that they get, and they go watch videos about it and they're excited about it, and then they just see negative comment after negative comment after negative comment, I think that could be really discouraging to someone, even if they were originally happy with their purchase and they liked it and they thought it sounded good. Now they're going to think, oh my gosh, I made the wrong choice. Obviously, the Yeti does have its shortcomings, and there's nothing wrong with people addressing that. And as we looked, the internals are entirely different between these, but the sound quality, I've listened on my nice Rode headphones here back and forth, and I really can't tell a difference between sound quality. We did switch the capsules, and there was no sound quality difference between the capsules. You might be listening, though, on a different sound system than I'm using, and maybe you did hear a subtle difference. But for me, pre-Logitech, post-Logitech, internally there are definitely changes, which is fascinating because it means there's truth to those rumors. But when it comes to the end results, I don't really notice any difference. The mics work the same. I think they sound exactly the same. Everything's pretty much the same. And so the last thing I'll say kind of goes back to that discouraging thing. And I think that you should be able to decide what works best for you. And bringing in reviews and bringing in resources to make the best decision possible is a very smart thing to do. But if you just like something, if the Yeti works for you and you like it and you like the style of it and the sound of it and it fits into your workflow super easily, you should not hesitate to get it and to use it, and it's going to serve you very well. If another mic works better for you, you should use that too. If you're somebody who has a full-on studio and a bunch of XLR mics and mixers and all that kind of stuff, the Yeti is just really not for you. But for the person who the Yeti is for, just needs something that's going to be easy to use to get decent sound quality, it delivers on everything that it promises. Like, it is literally one of the few products where if you look at the box and you look at the instructions and everything that it says it does, it actually does it. Whether you like what it does or not is very different and very personal, but it doesn't seem to be trying to be anything other than what it is. And honestly, my biggest criticism is just that they're still making them with mini USB. If they did redo the internals, I'm kind of shocked that they didn't put in a USB-C port. That seems like it would have been important. But beyond that, the Yeti's the Yeti. It has a reputation, but it's up to you to decide if it sounds good or not. And speaking of things that sound good, thank you to everyone who helps support my channel through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And if the Yeti Spaghetti isn't for you, but you want a plug-and-play microphone, check out some of my other USB mic reviews right here.